The time is now to architect a life of excellence. What will we do? Who will we become? We decide today. This is Learn, Do, Become Radio with April and Eric Perry. Let's move onward and upward together.
Hello and welcome to Learn, Do, Become Radio. I'm April Perry and I'm here today with Dr. David Burns, who is the author of the best-selling book Feeling Good and When Panic Attacks, two wonderful books that help us to overcome depression and anxiety. But what I've found as I've come to know Dr. Burns is that this is about a better way to live. He's teaching beautiful principles that can help us to learn how to think well about our lives and our families and moving forward, which is exactly what we do at Learn, Do, Become. So we're so excited. Thank you for joining us today, Dr. Burns.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's great to be on your show.
Can we have a little bit of background about you, how you even got interested in this topic, and what you're doing right now in your research and in your work to be able to help families all over the world?
Right. Well, I'm a clinical psychiatrist, and I'm right now on the voluntary faculty of the Department of Psychiatry at Stanford Medical School here in California. Voluntary faculty means unpaid. There's two faculties. There's a slave labor faculty and a paid. I'm on the slave labor faculty. What that means is that I contribute a certain amount of time each year to teaching. And I'm probably best known to your listeners for my book Feeling Good, which was on depression. Lately, and we've been developing real high-speed treatments for depression and anxiety. But I've also focused quite a bit on the whole issue of relationship problems and why we get into conflicts with people. It's not only marriages and relationships, but it's all over the world right now. We seem to be moving rapidly into a position of greater mistrust and hostility between religions, between nations, and between individuals. And in my research and my clinical work, I try to find out, what is the cause of these relationship problems, and what can we do to develop more loving relationships. And that's why I wrote the book Feeling Good Together, which is quite different from my early book on depression, Feeling Good, and Feeling Good Together is all on why loving relationships so often fail and how to point yourself in the direction of better relationships if that's the direction you want to go in.
Okay, I'm loving this. Now, how come every time I talk to you, I'm learning about all these new books you have? I need to get the whole bookshelf full.
Yeah, well, the reason I'm real old, so
I'm loving this.
Time to write quite a few books.
Well, it's so brilliant to have the idea of feeling good together because, at Learn, Do, Become, we're all about being family-centered. We care about moving through life with people we love. Nobody wants to be alone. Nobody wants to just feel like they don't have a close relationship, whether they're married or they're with children or having close friends. And just thinking about my own life, my husband Eric and I have been married nearly 18 years. We have 4 children. And while, of course, family is so important to us, because that's why we run these websites, we have to work every day to be able to talk about our expectations, and we're moving forward solving problems. Right now we're trying to kill the ants downstairs, and our dishwasher won't drain, and we're have a bunch of tasks to build our business, and we're sending son off to camp, and he got picked up at 4 a.m. Life is busy, and life is overwhelming for so many families. And I think, as you and I were talking a little bit before we started recording, there are so many people who feel like, if I ever need to go see a therapist or take my family to therapy, that means that we've failed, that we can't do it, and now we're all broken and need to be fixed. And I think when we can just change our perspective a little bit and recognize that there are wonderful theories and strategies and proven systems that we could put into place to make our relationships better, I want to learn about these. So I hope that you'll consider me an eager student. I'm here with my pen and paper, and I'm excited to learn alongside with our friends here at Learn, Do, Become.
Yeah, when I'm working with depression and anxiety, and the huge breakthrough in Feeling Good that we talked about in one of your other podcasts was that negative thoughts cause depression and anxiety, distorted negative thoughts. And when you change those negative thoughts, you can change the way you feel. It's a simple theory. It's a powerful, complex technology helping people do that. But that's the whole approach. The approach to relationship conflicts is radically different. When people have relationship conflicts, they get involved in all the same thinking errors that depressed people do. All or nothing thinking. Like if you're not getting along with someone, you're thinking, oh, he's a loser. All he cares about is himself. He just likes to exploit other people. He doesn't care. That type of thing. And you can see all the same all or nothing thinking, looking at people in black and white thinking.
Yes.
Mind reading, imagining where another person is coming from, imagining what their motives are, blame directed outwardly, hidden should statements. He should be better than he is. He shouldn't be like that. He's got no right to say things like that. And overgeneralizations, etc. It's fortune telling. He'll never change. Things like that.
Right.
The difference is that helping people correct those distortions will not help them with relationship problems. Oh. In fact, it'll even make it worse. Like if you have a patient who's thinking about someone he or she is really ticked off at, and they've got all these distortions, and you say, well, my dear, your problem isn't, your husband isn't making you angry, you're making yourself angry, and furthermore, all of your upsetting thoughts are just wrong, they're distorted. Well, then she'll be mad at you just the way she's mad at her husband. There's no mileage in that. So I had to create an entirely different theory about relationship problems based on research and a different technology. And what I do, the first thing when people have relationship problems, there's this thing called outcome resistance and process resistance.
Okay.
And you've got to melt away the person's resistance before you can help them. Now, outcome resistance. Now, keep in mind, I'm speaking from the point of view of a therapist.
Okay.
But this is for the general public, since I'm always working with general citizens who are either depressed or anxious or having some troubled relationship. And the first thing is the person who's telling you, oh, I can't stand my mother or my brother or my sister or my colleague. And they're complaining about that person. The error that most therapists make is to jump in and try to help the person with various communication techniques, or schedule dates with your wife if you're mad at her, or do nice things for the person you're angry with. All these relationship enhancement things. And the problem is, if you try those things, they'll usually not work.
Okay.
And the reason is because the person may not want to get close to the person they're complaining about.
Okay.
They may just want you to know what a loser that person is.
Okay.
And that's why marital therapy and couples therapy so often fails. It's one of the toughest areas of psychotherapy. And so what I do for general audiences is I do a little thought experiment when I'm doing workshops, and to bring out this what I call outcome resistance. That means you don't want a good outcome from the therapy.
Oh.
And when you're talking about someone you don't like or get along with, well, good outcome would be to have a loving relationship with that person. So I say to the audience, think about somebody you don't like, that you kind of deeply resent, now or at any time in your life, and put your hand up when you can think of somebody. So all the hands go up.
Okay.
And then I say, now imagine there's a magic button in front of you, and all you'd have to do is press that magic button, and that person who you're so ticked off at right now will instantly become your best friend in the whole world.
Okay.
How many of you are going to press that button? And then they all start laughing, and maybe if there's a group of 200, 3 hands will go up. And I say, now notice what just happened. I gave you a choice between a hostile, abusive, horrible relationship and a joyous, peaceful, loving one. And what did you choose? And then they say, oh, we chose the abusive one. And then I say, well, that's not necessarily a bad choice. I'm not saying you're wrong in making that choice. Maybe some people aren't worth the effort of trying to get close to them. But there is something about human nature, and this is one of the chapters in my book, Feeling Good Together, is why we secretly love to hate. And that's I think hatred and hostility is a basic part of human nature. And it can be very rewarding for us to look down on somebody and to think of them as an enemy and to see ourselves as the victim of their bad behavior, and we feel kind of morally superior, and we can talk about them, behind their back and tell people. Do you see what I'm talking about?
Yes, yes.
And so that's the first bridge that's got to be crossed. Do you really want to get close to this person? I say I've got some fantastic tools for healing troubled relationships in a way that happens fast and leaves nothing to be desired. But the question is, do you want to get close to this person? And sadly, more often not, the answer is no.
And then does it just stop? Do they just go home?
Yeah, then I say, that's great. Is there anything else I can help you with?
Oh.
As I've gotten old, I've learned not to try to help people against their will.
Okay.
You see. Now, if they say they do want to get close to that person, then we come to a second concept I created called
the process resistance.
Process resistance.
Okay.
And that means, are you willing to get involved in the process, the therapeutic process or the personal growth process that you're going to have to go through to get close to that person? And I say, to help you answer that, I'm going to give you another thought experiment. We can ask your listeners right now to do this thought experiment. Now, think of that person who you so deeply resent, the person you don't like. You can't stand this person.
Okay.
And ask yourself this question and answer it in your heart of hearts. Who would you say is more to blame for that problem? You or the other person? Who's the bigger jerk?
Does anyone ever pick themselves?
Yeah. Out of an audience of 200, you'll have 3 people who pick themselves and 197 who said it's the other person's fault. And then I ask the audience, now what is the likelihood of helping someone with a relationship problem when they say it's the other person's fault? And then they of course, these are therapists in the audience, they say 0. And that's the second bridge that has to be crossed. And the question that I ask my patients and what I ask the people who read my book, Feeling Good Together, and what I'll ask listeners right now is, yes, I've got some fantastic tools, and what a joy it would be to show you how to change the way you relate to this person and to develop a loving relationship, a more loving relationship. And 95% of the time that can be done. But you're going to have to look at your role in the problem rather than blaming your partner. And you're going to have to assume all the responsibility for changing yourself rather than trying to change your partner. And I will help you pinpoint your role. I'll show you why that your husband can't express his feelings. I'll show you what you do that prevents him from expressing his feelings. But when you see it, it's going to hurt your feelings pretty badly because you're used to being the victim. But if you're willing to experience that death of the ego, and it is painful, it hurts me when I have to do this. Look at my role in a conflict with my wife or my daughter or my son or a student or someone in a workshop or a colleague. It just, I hate doing it. But if I'm willing to do it, then I can become empowered to resolve that problem and in a way that can bring great joy and satisfaction. But those are the dimensions there. That's the kind of the foundation of the interpersonal work that I do. But it's kind of a shock. I'll give you a quick example of it if you want. I did a workshop in Sacramento a few years ago, sponsored by one of the hospitals, and they wanted me to do an outreach workshop for the general public, a half-a-day program in a gymnasium, and there were maybe 300 people there or something. And I said, now, to show you how this new relationship therapy works, I want you to think of one person that you can't get along with, and you don't like, and write down one thing they said to you, and then exactly what you said next, because that's all we need to do a complete diagnosis of what's wrong in this relationship.
Okay.
And so they all did this. It took them about 1 minute or 2 minutes, and then I said, now would any of you like to share with us who is the difficult person in your life? And what did they say to you, and how do you typically respond? And so this woman in the front row, she was wagging her arm very excitedly, and she wanted me to. So I called on her, and I said, "Well, who's the difficult person in your life?" And she says, "It's my husband." And he didn't come, but I came to this workshop to find out, why men are the way they are. All he ever says to me is he keeps, criticizing me all the time. Why are men like that? And I said, well, Elizabeth, scientists don't yet know why men are the way they are or why women are the way they are. But if you'll read one thing your husband said to you and exactly what you said next, maybe we can find out the answer.
Okay.
And she said, well, just last evening, my husband said to me, you never listen. And he's been saying that to me for 35 years. He says it every day. And then I said, okay, now read what you put down in the second line. What did you say? How did you respond to him? And she said, oh, I said nothing. I usually just ignore him. And everyone, the audience burst out laughing. They could see what she couldn't see.
Oh my gosh.
You see, is that she's forcing her husband to do this to her.
Oh.
Do you see that?
Yes. Okay, but she honestly didn't get it? Like,
no, people can't get it. They can see someone else, but you can't look at yourself. You can't see this in yourself. And so, in Feeling Good Together, I have a very simple technique. It's not like the daily mood log we talked about in the depression interview. It's called the relationship journal.
Okay. And
you write down one thing the other person said to you and exactly what you said next. In a moment that was not effective for you.
Right.
And then it shows you how to diagnose. You can see exactly the impact of your statement on the other person and how they're going to feel and behave. And so you find if someone is critical of you, you're forcing them to be critical. Or maybe one woman said that her problem was, my husband can't express his feelings. He's a minister, and ministers just have to be nice to everyone, and he can't deal with feelings, so our marriage is sterile and boring. He's more like a roommate than a passionate, husband.
Yeah.
And then I said, okay, what's one thing he said to you, and what did you say next? And that's something she did that he found very upsetting. Mm-hmm. And then she gave him just a total put down. I wish I had it in front of me right now, but it was something like, I'm so sick and tired of this, and you never express your feelings, and blah, 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 and blah, blah, blah. And the impact of her statement, you see, he had just tried to express his feelings.
Yes.
And then she put him down.
Right.
And you can always see this if you look at what the other person said and what you said next. But again, it's very painful because we're so used to thinking of ourselves as morally superior.
Right.
And then you suddenly see you've been creating the very loss of intimacy and conflict that you've been complaining about, and it's very shocking. That's why it's better to be treated for depression, because when you come to me for depression, you think you're a loser. And I'll show you you're way better than you thought you were, and you'll get euphoric. It's great to recover from depression. But when you have a relationship problem, you think the other person is a loser.
Right.
And you find out it's really something that you're doing, and that's very painful.
Right. And do you feel like but when you say it's something you're doing, but there's probably still, if both couples come in, or both, people come in together, that each of them would realize their part they played? Is that how it goes?
Marriage therapists try to treat both at the same time. I dread that.
Oh,
because when you get one of them on your side, the other one thinks that you're beating up on them. So they take turns sabotaging the therapy. I've actually found that if I have one person in the office, I have a very high success rate, because that person has to assume total responsibility for change, because the other person isn't there. And the moment they change, if you really change with humility and begin communicating with the other person in a different way, to see what the other person is saying, to see the truth in the other person's criticism, the moment your ego dies, their defenses will go down, and they'll die too, and then you kind of go to heaven together. I know this is all just metaphorical, but the specific techniques are in the book. But it's painful. It's a great reward. You get rewarded for the death of your ego, but it's kind of painful because most people don't want to die. Once you're dead, it's okay, and then you can join the Grateful Dead. But
well, I'm excited to get your book because I love the idea that whether it's a marriage or whether it's, a friend down the street that you are having a problem with a neighbor, right? Or some other person or a sibling or a roommate or whoever it is. I love the idea that you could go read a book and that you can be that change that you wish to see, right? We hear that all the time. Be the change you wish to see in the world. And I think when you're in a relationship where it seems like the other person is at fault, you feel powerless. You feel like, well, unless that person decides to change, which I know they never will, then my life is going to be horrible as long as I have to interact with that person. But I love how you're giving the control back to the individual, saying if you want a close relationship with this person, you actually can make a bigger impact on this than you think, whether you're the husband or the wife or the neighbor or friend or whoever it is. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
And then what I've tried to do in my career is to develop clear, simple techniques. They're not necessarily simple to implement, but to make it real clear to people so it's not like mumbo jumbo or black magic.
Well, and I believe it because I've read your first book, When Panic Attacks, and I love how you took it through a step-by-step process because I love what you pointed out as well. People can't see it in themselves. I mean, I'm sure if you followed me around during the day with a little clipboard, you could see, 15 things that I'm doing or more that I could do more optimally. And I love that because I don't see it, I don't know it's there. I don't know the problem is mine, that there's still a way for me to go into your book and be able to see myself and see the examples. And I think that's what's been most helpful is as I went through just in reading your book, When Panic Attacks, I realized I love how you called it the niceness disease. That you said a lot of people who have anxiety are like really nice people. And that's been my problem. Like, I'm a really nice person.
That'll be a good topic for another interview about how niceness triggers anxiety and what the cure for that is.
Oh, my goodness. Well, it's been so helpful just to be able to even see that written down. Oh, I have a niceness disease. Okay, so let's see what I've been doing. And I have a lot of great relationships and a lot of great things in my life. So it's not like my life is full of awfulness or anything like that. But I think that as I started realizing, okay, some of the ways I may be responding to people in an attempt to avoid conflict or
that's right. I'm
changed.
glad you picked that up because very few therapists who treat anxiety know about that technique.
Well,
and it's so I had the same thing. I was a minister's son, so I grew up thinking I'm supposed to be so nice to everyone, and I've had 17 different anxiety disorders myself. That's why I liked writing that book and treating anxiety. When I wrote that book, I started thinking, gosh, I've had all kinds of anxiety myself. I didn't even notice that. And whatever the patient has, whatever form of anxiety, I can say to them, oh, I've had that too. I know how sucky that is, and I know how to cure you of that.
Right.
And that's why I love treating anxiety.
Okay, so my mind now is spinning with like 1,000 questions I want to ask you. I think maybe one of the best ways for us to close the podcast is to understand the breadth of the types of issues that can be solved through your books. Now, I know of 3 books now. How many books have you written total?
Well, there's a few more that the others are kind of variants on the same thing. There's the Feeling Good Handbook, which came out 10 years after Feeling Good. It covers more kind of topics, or that's a very good book. And then I wrote a very simplified version of it called 10 Days to Self-Esteem because my hospital in Philadelphia, we had worked with homeless people, and a lot of our patients couldn't read or write.
Wow.
And I made it a real simple kind of version of what we were then calling cognitive therapy.
Okay.
It's kind of a workbook, and for someone who doesn't like a lot of reading and just in simple words, that's a pretty good one. And then the 2 latest are Feeling Good Together. That's the relationship one, and the one you stumbled across when Panic Attacks. And then I have one book for therapists too, but that's
okay. That'd be a different level.
Day.
Okay, and so let's just talk about what things can be solved through this library of books. I mean, so some of the ones I know already are things like if you're suffering from anxiety or depression, struggles in a relationship, I'm already seeing it help me in things like not being afraid as I'm reaching towards big goals, like not doubting myself, having better self-confidence. What are some other categories of maybe issues people might have, problems they have, and they don't even know that they can be solved? What are some other things that you've helped people?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people those are the big three: depression, anxiety, and relationship problems.
Mm-hmm.
And probably 90% of Americans have one or more of those.
Yeah.
The thing when people don't know it sometimes is when they're depressed and they don't realize they have a problem that can be resolved. They think they just are inferior, or they are worthless, or their life does suck, something like that.
Yeah.
They don't realize that it's their thoughts, not the reality of their life, that creates their depression, and that those thinking patterns can be changed. But that's on a very humble, basic level.
Well, I love this. Okay, so we will go find your books. I'll include links to all of your books in the show notes of the podcast. And I know we can find you at feelinggood.com with 2 G's in the middle, right? Feelinggood.com.
Right.
Any kind of final encouragement or advice that you would have to offer to our listeners?
No, I was just thinking, do you get feedback from your listeners?
Yes, we have a comment section right below, and we get feedback via social media.
Yeah, well, you can see how they respond to it, and if they like the podcast and have some questions, maybe I'd be happy to do another one on another occasion and address some of their questions or address some more specific, aspects of some of these things we've been discussing, because we're just kind of, scratching the surface.
I love this. Yeah. Okay, so those of you who are listening, come to the podcast page, type in your comments, type in your questions, because I feel so privileged that Dr. Burns is willing to take his time to help us to be able to understand how we can solve these problems that we're going through. And yes, there's plenty of great information out there about how to strengthen your family and how to build your business, and really specifics we can put in place as far as how to organize the house, or a lot of the stuff that I work on is things like how to get your paper piles to zero and keep your emails at zero, and different ways you can move forward on projects, which I think is great.
Sure.
But I love
procrastination. That's another big one.
Yes, absolutely. And I love that we can take this aspect of, I love the book by James Allen, As a Man Thinketh. I love this idea that the thoughts that we have, that we can actually go through a step-by-step process to help them to become healthy, and that can then greatly impact how we feel every day, how our relationships are growing, and then ultimately who we're becoming as a society and as individuals and families. So thank you so much, Dr. Burns.
Thank you.
I hope that you enjoyed today's episode of Learn, Do, Become Radio, and I just wanted to give you a little follow-up since I recorded this with Dr. Burns a few weeks ago. First of all, I ordered his books, Feeling Good and Feeling Good Together, so now I have those two in addition to When Panic Attacks. So those are the 3 books I would highly recommend. They are all fantastic, and it's amazing to me that relationship problems and anxiety and depression can all come back to the same cognitive distortions, and that we can actually improve in all 3 of those areas. So I really encourage you to get the books and read them, study them, and implement them. Also, I want to let you know that I've included links to the books and a link to the other podcast that I recorded with Dr. Burns for Power of Moms Radio. You can find all of that information at learndobecome.com/episode 13. Now, the book Feeling Good has sold more than 5 million copies, and they found that about 2/3 of the people who read that book are able to recover from depression. So if you're struggling and you're feeling discouraged or depressed or anxious, or really having any challenges in your life that you just feel are originating in your mind, I would definitely try these 3 books, read them, implement them. They are worth literally thousands of dollars of what you would pay for therapy. And more than that, what you're going to experience in your family once you're able to get over these challenges will be priceless for you. All right, the next thing I wanted to share is that it's not necessarily an easy journey. So Dr. Burns was saying that it's painful, it's hard to look at yourself and realize that maybe something in your mind wants to be anxious, or maybe you enjoy being able to be superior to someone else, and recognizing that you have a part to play in making your relationships better, making your life better, That's not something any of us want to hear, but when we are actually able to face it and when we're able to accept it, it's huge. Now, I will say that there was one day I responded really badly to something Eric said. In fact, I just read about how I was supposed to respond and I did the exact opposite. And then I kind of beat myself up saying, I know better than this. So I just want you to know that even though you're going to be learning how to communicate well and how to think well, it's not just going to come naturally all of a sudden. It's going to take some work. But I will say that it's worth it. The effort you're going to spend reading the book, I know you don't have time, but make time. It's worth it. Also, I just want to share that there are multiple strategies to helping us architect lives of excellence. Learn to Become is about strengthening families and building solid, beautiful lives. So Dr. Burns helps us with the cognitive therapy side of things. He's going to help us to learn how to think well and how to build strong relationships. Eric and I have created the STEP program, Steps to Everyday Productivity at Learn to Become. If you haven't yet attended one of our workshops or you haven't checked out the program, this is a way that you can streamline your projects, your tasks, papers, emails. I mean, I'm looking around my house right now. There is no clutter. There are no piles. There's nothing that's just kind of hanging out there on a counter. I can't tell you what that does for my mental clarity. And then when it comes to reading books like this and overcoming anxiety and building relationships, those things seem so much more doable. So I just want you to know that we're here to help you in all the different facets of your life. So come check out the show notes page. We'll have links to all the information. You can decide what's the highest priority, what would make the biggest difference for you to start. LearnDoBecome.com/episode 13. Again, thanks for being with us. I feel like I'm starting to get to know you through your comments and through your emails, and we're here to serve you and take care of you. I know that life isn't easy. I know that there are so many things going on in your homes and families, but when we think about it, it's our families that are at stake. We're doing this for them. We're doing this so that our influence will carry on through the generations. Thanks again for being with us. Sending love to you all. Have a wonderful day.